The Senate will come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Senators Baisley, Bridges, Buckner, Coleman, Cutter, Danielson, Exum, Fields, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hansen, Hinrichsen, Jaquez Lewis, Kirkmeyer, Kolker, Liston, Lundin, Marchman, Moreno, Mullica, Pelton B, Pelton R, Priola, Rich, Roberts, Rodriguez, Simpson, Smallwood, Sullivan, Van Winkle, Will, Winter, Zenzinger, Mr. President.
Here. Good morning. Roll call is 35 present, 0 absent, 0 excused. We have a quorum. Will the good senator from Denver please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, guests, please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the journal. Senator Kolker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate Journal of Monday, March 13th, 2023 be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. That motion is adopted. Senate services.
March 14, 2023, correctly engrossed Senate Joint Resolution 7, Senate Memorial 2, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bills 4997, 144, 155, 156, 168, 169, and 170, correctly re-revised House Bill 1116, correctly enrolled Senate Bill 77.
Committee reports.
March 13, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Education has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Member of the Board of Trustees of the Colorado School of Mines, effective January 1st, 2023, for a term expiring December 31st, 2026. Denise Burgess of Denver, Colorado, a Democrat, reappointed. March 13, 2023, the Committee on Education, after consideration on the merits of the committee, recommends the following: House Bill 1093 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. House Bill 1001 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Education has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirm. Members of the State Board for Community Colleges and Occupational Education for a term expiring December 31st, 2025, Melanie Kruger of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as an unaffiliated from the 8th Congressional District, appointed for terms expiring December 31st, 2026. Landon Mascarenas of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a Democrat and member from the 1st Congressional District, reappointed. Terrence Douglas McWilliams of Colorado Springs, Colorado, to serve as a Republican and member from the 5th Congressional District, reappointed. March 13, 2023, the Committee on Transportation and Energy, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1137 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. House Bill 1156 be referred to the Committee of the Whole, a favorable recommendation, and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2023, the Committee on Judiciary, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1037 be amended as follows, and as so amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. March 13, 2023, Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration and has had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends that the appointments be placed on the consent calendar and confirmed. Executive Director of the Department of Corrections for a term expiring at the pleasure of the Governor, Moses Andre Stansel, Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed. March 13, 2023, Committee on Judiciary, after consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following: House Bill 1172 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation and with a recommendation that it be placed on the consent calendar.
Message from the House.
March 13, 2023. Mr. President, the House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bills 1027, 1074, 1077, 1130, 1132, 1094, 1061, and 1168 amended as printed in House Journal March 11, 2023. The House has passed on third reading and transmitted to the Reviser of Statutes House Bill 1068 amended as printed in House Journal March 22, 2023, and amended on third reading and as printed in House Journal March 13, 2023. The House has voted to concur in the Senate amendments to House Bill 1139 and has repassed the bill as so amended.
Message from the Reviser.
March 13, 2023, we herewith transmit without comment as amended House Bills 1027, 1061, 1068, 1077, 1094, 1130, 1132, and 1168 without comment as amended House Bill 1074.
Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1039, Representative Byrd, Senators Rodriguez and Winter, concerning a requirement that electric load-serving entities periodically report about the adequacy of their electric resources and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Transportation Energy.
House Bill 1179, Representatives Morrow and Winter T., Senators Henriksen and Simpson, concerning the maximum uncommitted reserve that may be retained in the Agricultural Products Inspection Cash Fund.
Agriculture and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1185, Representatives Doherty and Woodrow, Senator Rodriguez, concerning procedures relating to the replacement of elected officials.
State Veterans and Military Affairs.
House Bill 1219, Representative Froelich and Amabile, Senators Sullivan and Hansen, concerning establishing a minimum 3-day waiting period prior to the delivery of a purchased firearm.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by the senator from Aurora.
The motion is to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senator Fields.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
I would also like to invite any of my colleagues here that are teachers to join me, because today I'm here to pay tribute to Colorado's Teacher of the Year. Let me read the tribute to you, but if you are a teacher, please join me. It's to be recognized a Teacher of the Year for the state of Colorado among all the teachers deserves our attention and our recognition. The Senate of the Colorado Legislature convened in the first general session of the 74th General Assembly hereby extends our congratulations to Jimmy Lee Day II. Mr. Jimmy Lee Day II is the band director and instrumental music teacher at East Middle School in Aurora Public Schools. He was named Colorado's 2023 Teacher of the Year. We celebrate you, your family, for your 13 years as an educator at East Middle School since 2016. Now, middle school is 6th grade through 8th. During this time, we are aware that you have rebuilt 3 band programs, transforming them into award-winning programs. We are so inspired by your dedication in educating our students, your passion for helping young musicians develop their instrumental skills, and your commitment to instill in them the confidence and demonstrate life skills. Again, Mr. Jimmy Lee Day II, we congratulate you on receiving this prestigious award for your excellence in classroom. Presented to you on this day, and it's signed by our dear President, Mr. Senator President Steve Finberg. And Mr. President, I'd like to acknowledge some special guests that are here. First of all, you see standing there the Teacher of the Year, Jimmy Day Lee Day II, his lovely wife, his son, and then the school principal. Please stand. That is Miss Jacqueline Brown. She's the president of the principal of East High School, a very dear friend and one of my college buddies that's there. And we also have a member of the Aurora Public School Board of Education here, Miss Michelle Ortiz, and her family. Her 2 sons are here. We just want to say thank you for all who are contributing to developing the young minds of students. I believe the work that you do requires 5 things. You have to be competent, you have to be compassionate, you have to be consistent, and you have to be a composer of music. Thank you all for joining us today.
Congratulations, and thank you so much for being with us today. Special orders. Second reading of bills. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate dissolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of special orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the special order, second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
Okay. Will you say the words?
Say the words.
Like, whatever we're moving?
Oh, jeez, are we moving the,
I've got all these amendments.
we have no amendments, though.
The committee will come to order, and the court rule is indeed relaxed for all that I can relax it for.
It's okay.
Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 87?
Senate Bill 87, with Senators Marchman and Baisley, Representatives Kipp and Wilson, concerning creation of a teacher degree apprenticeship program as an alternative route to teacher licensure.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, colleagues, my vision is poor. If you would like to speak, please be in the well. If you are not in the well, I will not see you, and unfortunately, you will miss your chance. So, Senator Marchman. Order, please. Thank you. Senator Marchman. Senator Marchman. Senator Marchman. Yes, Senator, you may speak and lower
Okay.
your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move SB 87 and the Appropriations and Education Committee reports.
To the Education Report, is there any discussion? Seeing none, the Education Committee report is adopted. Is there any discussion of the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill,
amendment.
any discussion? Senator
Yes.
Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There
I
is an
move-
amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read L004?
Amendment L004 by Senator Marchman, amend printed
Senator
bill page 4.
Marchman.
Thank you. I move L004.
That is a proper motion. To the amendment.
Thank you. Oh.
Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are technical clarifications, as are the rest of them, for the most part.
Is there any further discussion of L004? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L004. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. L004 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L005?
Okay.
Amendment
Senator
L005.
Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L005.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L005. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. L005 is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L006?
Amendment L006 by Senator Marchman, amend printed bill page 8, strike
Senator
lines.
Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L006.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Seeing none, the question before us is the. You sure you didn't just want to do strike below? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L006. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. L006 is adopted. There is another amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L007?
Amendment
Senator
L007.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L004 through L007 are technical clarifications requested by the State Apprenticeship Agency within CDLE. They clarify that this bill is specific to a teacher apprenticeship, that the apprenticeships are registered, and clarifies the role of the State Apprenticeship Agency. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. L007 is adopted.
I'm sorry, Al.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L008?
Sorry.
Amendment L008 by
Senator
Senator
Marchman.
Marchman.
I didn't mean to.
Department request.
Oh,
Can I withdraw it?
You have to say on the mic,
I withdraw Amendment L008.
L008 is withdrawn.
Yeah.
To the bill.
Yes.
Enough.
Senator
9.
Marchman.
9.
Oh.
Jeff, you can slow down a little bit. Thank you.
There is another amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L008? Or 9. 9. We're on 9 now.
Amendment L009 by
Senator
Senator
Marchman.
Marchman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. L009 is the result of additional stakeholder work we've been doing specifically with CU Boulder to ensure apprentices are highly trained and our program is focused on quality standards. I ask for an aye vote. I move Amendment L009.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L009. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. L009 is adopted. To the bill.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion? Senator Martin. Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I am a big fan of apprenticeships. This apprenticeship is specifically for folks who are striving to become teachers and who are already working within the industry. And so this gives them practical experience in the classroom while earning their bachelor's degree and qualifying themselves to become full-time teachers. So this falls within something I've been preaching for a long time. I think it's a really good move for the state, and I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 87. All those in favor say aye.
Two?
Opposed,
Oh, I
no.
can fist bump you too.
Ayes have it, and Senate Bill 87 is adopted.
In that case.
Mr. Majority Leader,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
the motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had that number being 1, of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 87 is amended, passed on second reading, and ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 87 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. General orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar, Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the committee of the whole for the consideration of general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
Which one was taken off?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Cindy, which one was taken off? Which one was taken off? Okay. The committee will come to order and the code rule is not relaxed. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's been a request to remove Senate Bill 162 from the consent calendar. Colleagues, that will be placed at the bottom of the general orders second reading of bills calendar.
Senate Bill 162 will be removed from the general order second reading of bills consent calendar and moved to the bottom of the general orders, second reading of bills calendar. Mr. Majority Leader. Will the clerk please read the bills on the second reading of bills consent calendar?
House Bill 1140, Representative Snyder and Evans, Senators Rodriguez and Van Winkle, concerning the requirement that businesses licensed to sell power sports vehicles have a principal place of business. House Bill 1040, Representatives Leader and Frizzell, Senators Cutter and Pelton R, concerning updates regarding Prader-Willi syndrome.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the second reading consent calendar, which includes House Bills 1140 and 1040. There are no committee reports.
The motion is for the adoption of the bills on this second reading of bills consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Those bills are adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had two bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1140 and 1040 passed on second reading in order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 162 removed from the general order second reading bills consent calendar and placed at the end of the general order second reading bills calendar for March 14, 2023.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. House Bill 1140 and House Bill 1040 passed on second reading in order to revise and place on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 162 removed from the general order second reading of bills consent calendar and placed at the end of the general order second reading of bills calendar for March 14th. General order, second reading of bills. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself to the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders, second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of the general order, second reading of bills, and Senator Bridges will take the chair.
Senator. Get it out of your system now before we come to order. Here we go. The committee will come to order and the coat rule is relaxed for everybody. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that the committee proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of Senate Bill 17.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of Senate Bill 17. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and we will proceed to Senate Bill 17. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 17.
Oh, that's right. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 17?
Senate Bill 17, Senator Winter, Representative Wilford, concerning the addition of qualifying uses of paid sick leave.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I move Senate Bill 17 and the associated Business, Labor, and Technology report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the BLT report, any discussion? Senator Winter.
In Business, Labor, and Technology, we ensured that we added if you have to evacuate your house because of a natural disaster such as a forest fire or flood, and I encourage a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the BLT report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report, Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee made the appropriation, and I encourage a yes vote.
How appropriate. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is appropriately adopted. To the bill, Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill does not extend the amount of paid sick leave anyone gets. The amount you get is still what you get. It does not change that. It does not change the burden to businesses. What it does change is slightly amending what you can use paid sick leave for. This came from some of my constituents this last summer when it became too hot to have our schools open and could not send their children to school. That put parents in a really bad situation of deciding to either miss a paycheck, skip a day of work, lose a job, struggle for childcare. This also came from some constituents that had to evacuate when there was the Marshall Fire. And they had to take a day off of work to be able to evacuate. And so this is just allowing for those exigent circumstances the use of paid sick leave.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do have a question for the bill sponsor. With the new Paid Family and Medical Leave Act changing the traditional definition of family to something new, I wanted to know if in this bill on page 2, lines 14, and page 3, lines 5, what the definition of family would be, if it, and where we might be able to find that. Thank you.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first, paid family and medical leave and paid sick leave are different policies, different places in statute, different reasonings. They do have different definitions of family, and the definition of family for paid sick leave is more narrow than the voter-approved definition of family and paid family and medical leave. And I don't have the exact definition for the paid sick leave statute, but I believe the good senator from Douglas County is finding it. But I know it's more narrow.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senatorial 5.
Senatorial 5.
We're not.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 17. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1031.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1031. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We will proceed out of order for 1031. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, yeah.
Oh. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 1031? House Bill. Just going to reverse here, start again.
House
All
Bill
right.
1031, Representative Story and Wolford, Senator Winter F., concerning an exemption for mental health professionals from requirements to report information about individuals with a sexually transmitted infection to public health entities.
The chair thanks the clerk for knowing what was on his mind. Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the passage of House Bill 1031 along with the associated Health and Human Services report.
To the committee report. Any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of that report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The report is adopted. Senator Winter, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a fairly straightforward bill. We've been working very hard to increase the access to mental health care. Part of increasing that access is trusting the mental health care providers and system. This is an exemption for mental health care providers to have to share information about sexually transmitted infections because they do not diagnose or treat those infections. They will be getting diagnosed, treated, and reported elsewhere. So this will not decrease the reporting. It's just who is reporting and building that trust with mental health care professionals.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate the bill sponsor's explanation, although in the well, it's very hard to hear, as you probably know. So one thing that we definitely have been tracking, and there was actually an article in the Denver Post less than a year ago talking about the rates of sexually transmitted infections jumping in Colorado, nationwide. Wanted to know, in this article, and I'm glad to go through it, it seems like we were hearing directly from the Regional Prevention and Field Services Supervisor with CDPHE, being concerned about lack of reporting into CDPHE, and a quote from Jill Hunsaker-Ryan, the Executive Director of the State Health Department, talking about a concern about lack of reporting, and that contributing to the skyrocketing rates that we're seeing in our state of syphilis, gonorrhea, and chlamydia, and wanted to know if this bill is going to help make it easier to get that data into CDPHE, help our state be able to react to it, or if it is actually going to do the opposite and give CDPHE even less data than they have currently. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This should not impact the amount of data CDPHE is getting, and I worked with CDPHE on this bill, and the amendment in health was on behalf of CDPHE. So the mental health providers are not treating, diagnosing the STI. And so the patient would be getting treatment and diagnosis from another healthcare provider. That healthcare provider is responsible for reporting that sexually transmitted disease. And so who is diagnosing and treating must report. A mental health care professional is not treating and diagnosing, except in very rare circumstances within mental health facilities, which is the amendment we added on in the Health Committee, that if a mental health care provider is diagnosing and treating, then they have to report. And so this is saying that the reporting is on the healthcare professional doing the treatment and diagnosis.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And colleagues, I'm only concerned about this because of the skyrocketing rates of STIs that we're seeing across our state. And these aren't just a clinical annoyance to a patient. These, we're talking about increased cancer rates, infertility. So this is important that this information get to CDPHE. So I guess what I'm not understanding, and I apologize, would be why we want to do this. Even if there's only a little bit less data going into CDPHE, shouldn't we want all the data that we possibly can get going to CDPHE? Again, because these rates are skyrocketing and the impacts of having things like, suffering from things like chlamydia or syphilis is potentially life-threatening. So I guess I don't understand the purpose of the bill, what problem we're trying to solve, and if even a modicum of data that could be going to CDPHE isn't, how is that beneficial to the state?
Senator Winter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The data is still going to get to CDPHE at the healthcare provider that's treating and diagnosing the STI. A mental health care professional is not treating and diagnosing an STI, but they are dealing with the mental health repercussions of that and making sure that we have a trusted relationship between the patients and their mental health care providers is why this bill is coming forward. My therapist does not diagnose STIs. My therapist does not tell me you need this antibiotic. Not me, but in theory, right? Yes. But whether you're going to a primary care provider or another provider that is diagnosing and treating you for that STI, that is where that data is captured.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the explanation from the senator who is still from Westminster, not Wheat Ridge. So I'm concerned about this because of the possibility that data that could be going to CDPHE now won't be. I understand it's not a mental health provider's job, and they're certainly not qualified to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. However, if a mental health care professional, as is in current statute, becomes aware that somebody that they're providing professional services to maybe says, for example, I was diagnosed in a different state with syphilis or with gonorrhea or with chlamydia. So that, these other states might not have a requirement that the healthcare professionals who actually made that diagnosis in the different state report that to CDPHE. In fact, I'm not aware of any law or enforceable law that would do that. So if a mental health provider is just one of those people in the entire continuum who might receive that data, and remember, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but here's the data, and this is again, Denver Post, quoting folks from CDPHE, Gerardo Orozco Pacheco, Regional Prevention and Field Services Supervisor with the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, said a lack of testing during the early phases of the pandemic may have allowed infections like syphilis and gonorrhea to spread because people don't know how to get treatment and notify their partners. Quote, "We are definitely seeing an increase in STIs," he said. The state health department urged people who might be at risk of a sexually transmitted infection to get tested, whether at their doctor's office, through a county health department, or by using a free at-home kit. Syphilis. Syphilis rates in Colorado increased by 32% from 2019, and colleagues, syphilis rates have more than quadrupled since 2011. While it's still less common than other sexually transmitted infections, it's important to track because of, so this is from Jill Hunsaker-Ryan, the executive director of the state health department. It's important to track because of the consequences of an untreated infection can be, quote, devastating. That is from the executive director of CDPHE, the importance to track. Can be dangerous during pregnancy, increases the odds of stillbirth, death in infancy, certain disabilities, treating at birthing is important. Gonorrhea followed a similar pattern to syphilis, with nationwide rates reaching levels last seen in 1991. The rate reached its low point in 2009 and has been rising ever since. Chlamydia. Chlamydia rates trended up since the CDC started tracking them in 1984. So again, we're talking about diseases that are certainly potentially devastating to unborn children, to the patients themselves, up to and including death. It would seem to me that we would be, colleagues, wanting to do everything we possibly can to provide as much reporting as we possibly can into CDPHE. And I don't read this bill as doing anything other than A, making it partially, maybe incrementally more convenient to a mental health care provider, because now there's a requirement that's going to be taken off of them. So that's the only advantage that I really see. But I do see potentially the detriment, and it might say, okay, well, how many actual cases of these STIs or mental health care providers being the initial reporter on? And it might be very few. But I want you to think about yourselves, for example. What if the person that didn't get the reporting in was your partner, or your son's partner, or your daughter's partner? And now this friend, family member of yours acquires an STI that would have otherwise have been reported. Again, it might not be thousands or tens of thousands of people, but does that really matter? The law is in there because we have an epidemic of STIs. Nobody is going to argue that. Nobody's foolish enough to come up here and argue that we have an epidemic of these STIs. So what we should be doing is promoting more reporting, more testing. This is doing the exact opposite. Again, maybe incrementally, but regardless, it's going in the absolute wrong direction, and for the benefit of who? A handful of mental health care providers who don't feel like they should be part of the solution? This doesn't make any sense to me, colleagues. I would really encourage a no vote on this, or a much better explanation of why we're going the wrong direction in testing of STIs.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1031. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 94.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the adoption to consider Senate Bill 94. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Bill 94?
Senate Bill 94, Senators Lundin and Zenzinger, concerning the creation of a task force to report on measures to improve school transportation.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 94 and the Education Report and the Appropriations Report.
To the Education Report, is there any discussion?
In Appropriations, we made an amendment that was inclusive of after-school providers, charter schools, and just generally making sure that we were broadening the scope of the committee to be in alignment with our conversations with our stakeholders.
And that was in the Education Committee report, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. The question before us then is the adoption of the Education Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report.
We appropriated the money for the Task Force Committee.
Is there any further discussion of the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted.
Let's talk about the bill first and then do our amendments.
Sounds good.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, we've got a transportation crisis in public education in Colorado today. The school districts are having a hard time finding bus drivers, enough bus drivers to, in fact, provide the yellow bus experience that we've known since the 1930s, 1940s. This transportation task force is designed to look into that issue and consider other issues as well. For instance, we've moved in other aspects of transportation in our lives into kind of a gig economy concept where you hail an unknown driver. Now, you wouldn't want to do that with school children. You'd want to know who's driving. But we have a very different method of transportation today as individuals than we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago, certainly. we need to look at other methods of potentially transporting school children as well. So this task force, which started out as a group of 3 people, now I joke, it was always a large task force. It, I think, was originally about 9 people. We're now at 22 or 24 people on the task force, and as we discuss this further here on second readings, the task force is going to grow a little bit more, but these are people who have either expertise or perspective that we want brought into the conversation about how we solve the challenges of K-12 public school transportation.
Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, who would be on this task force? Well, we are starting with the top, the Commissioner of Education or the Commissioner's designee. We want to make sure that we have parents who are part of the conversation, superintendents, chief financial officers. We definitely need our transportation directors represented. We have labor union representatives, charter school representatives, education advocacy groups, representatives from business or industry. We have representatives from public transit, from rideshare providers, from other after-school providers, as well as a recipient of CDE's Transportation Assistance Grant Program. We have a couple of amendments here where we would like to add some additional folks. So we will, at this point, pause.
Thanks.
There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L004?
Amendment L004 by Senator Zenzinger.
Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L004 to Senate Bill 94.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This, as I mentioned earlier, or alluded to earlier, and I will now mention, adds a couple of additional individuals to the task force. The disability community said, look, we have special needs with regard to transportation. We don't feel we're appropriately and properly represented on the task force. And we said, you know what? You're right. And so this amendment would add 2 more members to the task force.
Is there any further discussion of L004? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L004. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. There is another amendment coming to the desk. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read L007?
Amendment L007 by Senator Zenzinger, amend printed bill page 7,
Senator
strike line
Zenzinger.
27.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L007.
To the amendment.
So, members, this task force is being charged with looking at the entire landscape of transportation services for our schools. The task force will dig in, looking at our service gaps. It's going to look at how we currently collect data on school transportation for the purposes of calculating reimbursements to schools. We're going to look at how transportation plays into categorical funding. We are going to look at how would transportation maybe help with the broadening of some of the mission and scope of our schools around career and career technical education, which oftentimes takes place off-site from school at, like in my district, for example, at Warren Tech. We're going to be looking at ways that districts could vary whether they offer transportation, timing of that so that they can do stacked transportation routes, so that we can offer more transportation options for parents and families. And part of the conversation also needs to be around our supply. As you all know, in last year's budget, we funded the electrification of school buses in our state. And since that is part of the mix, what this amendment does is it adds into the conversation some conversations around vehicles, the types of vehicles that are being used, the electrification of those school buses, as well as fuel costs, maintenance costs, purchase prices, resale values, and salvage values. And so that's, I ask for an aye vote on this amendment.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much. I urge a yes vote on this amendment, and I would add into the record as well, I think we need to consider full life cycle cost. We need to contemplate the utility and the effectiveness of various types of transportation, whether in fact it turns out to be optimal or it turns out to be something that we're doing in pursuit of other objectives. We need to look into that and consider that as well. I urge your support of Amendment L07.
It's a lot of work done by a very short amendment. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of L007. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 007 is adopted. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, the pandemic that we just kind of more or less came out of severely exacerbated an already existing problem with shortages that are affecting our school district's ability to provide transportation to the majority of our students. I will let you know that Colorado state law does not require school districts to offer transportation services at all, though many districts do offer bus service or subsidized transit passes within their borders for students with disabilities and for students foster students who are placed in foster homes that are possibly outside of the articulation area for those bus routes. In my area, in Jefferson County, the northern part of Jefferson County last year quit offering transportation services. So the majority of parents have to provide their own transportation for their students, which brought up a lot of conversation around walkability, the length of walkability. Right now, the range for walkability is 2 miles. And whether or not that is realistic for parents and families and children in particular when we're thinking about safe routes to school, it just drove a lot of questions for what are we thinking about in the future? What do we expect out of our schools and our school districts with regard to how our children are going to get there? As well as some of the other considerations around career and technical education opportunities, as well as a plethora of after-school activities. So with that, it was kind of the genesis of the idea of we have not taken stock of our transportation system with regard to schools since the 1980s. And since we have not taken the opportunity to do a lay of the land, figure out what are the issues that are important to address, what's the data that we have, we've been unable to come up with solutions. So before we skip ahead and figure out what solutions are on the table, we need to talk about the problem. And that's what this task force will do, is it will do a deep dive with a plethora of stakeholders to figure out what are those key questions that need to be asked so that we can then move forward in the coming years with some possible solutions. I ask for your aye vote.
Senator Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, sponsors, for bringing this bill forward. I don't know if I've told you, I think maybe I have. My wife is a school bus driver in Cherry Creek and has been one for 23 years. The last 18 years, she has been a special needs driver. So the amendment that came on the end there, talking about the special needs drivers because they have a unique challenge every day, and they also have a unique gratification that they get from performing that job. So it's great that you've added them in on here. And again, I hope that we understand the connection that our bus drivers have with the students every single day. They're the first ones that the kids see. They're the first ones that the parents see and become aware of any challenges that the child or student might be having, and works them through their opening part of the day. And certainly with my wife having done it so long, she's watched these kids grow up, and they all, she will run into them at the grocery store and in the neighborhood and all of that, and they are really connected to their bus drivers. So one of the concerns that I do have is there is talk about contracting out, privatizing our bus services. I don't think that's quite as good of an idea. I think that the people need to be connected. Same thing, there has been talk about having the ability to use Uber or Lyft to take these kids to school on a regular basis. I hope that is conversation that will happen in this task force. And again, because they are the first and last connection for a kid and a student who goes to school, and we need to make sure and value their commitment to this process. So I ask for an aye vote.
Senator Lundin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate very much the comments of the senator from Centennial and the service that his wife has provided for these many years for students in getting them to and from school, and the additional value add that she brings as a bus driver, engaging them and getting them started in their day in a positive way. Really appreciate that. Appreciate all the associate and affiliate and ancillary individuals who participate in making our public schools effective and positive. It is, in fact, the charge of the task force to engage in those questions, to ask the question, is it better to contract out or retain within? It is. I would hope that the conversation would get even bigger and broader. They would consider it. We are a choice state. We believe in giving parents choice in where their child goes to school. How does that engage in the decisions we make around transportation, the flexibility of that, or the restrictions that come inherent with that? So I hope that this task force, which is a significantly sized body now, will be able to have meaningful conversations, that each task force member will bring their perspective, their expertise, their experience into the dialogue, and we'll find a better pathway forward, because we know one thing right now: transportation in the K-12 environment isn't working as well as we'd like it to, and we hope to find a better pathway forward. I believe Senate Bill 94 and the task force it creates will help us find that better pathway forward. Urge your aye vote on Senate Bill 94.
With appreciation for all those who get kids to school, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 94. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Bill 58.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 58. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 58?
Senate Bill 58, Senators Danielson and Hawkes Lewis, Representatives Wilford and Young, concerning required disclosures of age-related information on job applications.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 58 in the committee report.
Both committee reports?
Yes.
Excellent. To the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, we brought in some definitions to kind of work with some of the requests from employers, and I request an aye vote on the report.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the adoption of the BLT report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the Appropriations Committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues, for your time and attention today, and to my co-prime sponsor, who works diligently to address the needs of older Coloradans and folks in our community. As you know, it's my commitment to do everything possible to address the needs of older Coloradans to ensure they're able to thrive in our community with independence and dignity. Because Colorado is such an amazing place to live, our state is aging more rapidly than almost any other place in the U.S. But we are ill-prepared for the shift in population, and we must act to respond where we can. That means doing what we can to make sure older Coloradans can age and thrive independently, safely, with dignity. After all, they built our communities, they built our families, and we owe it to them to do right by our community elders. As part of that effort, we have the opportunity to address a barrier facing older Coloradans who are seeking new employment. Far too many older people experience discrimination when they're looking for a new job or looking to advance within their career. The first thing a prospective employer often sees is an age identifier, perhaps a graduation date. And that application is taken out of the running before the worker was ever truly considered. Employers might often think, well, this person is not tech savvy, they can't learn the new technology needed to do the job, this person won't be able to learn new things, the person is probably going to choose to retire soon, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of assumptions that are unwarranted and based solely on the age of the applicant. This is the experience of far too many Colorado workers. It's a prevalent problem facing folks, and we heard from a lot of them in the committee. Older workers who struggle to get their foot in the door, even though they have a lifetime of experience and knowledge to offer. One woman who held a high-level position that simply ended its tenure needed to find a new job. She was 62 years old and had an absolutely stellar resume, a career-long track record of great jobs and wonderful experience. She spent 14 months and sent in over 70 applications without a real response. Then she went to a resume building class where an instructor suggested that she reorganize her resume and eliminate the age identifiers. Immediately following, the next few applications resulted in interviews, and one of them, a job offer. Senate Bill 58, the Job Application Fairness Act, offers a solution to the problem of age discrimination on the front end of a job application. Basically, we would be eliminating the use of age identifiers on the initial job application. What that means is items such as a graduation date would not be used anymore on the first step of a job application. It doesn't mean that a prospective employer can't require transcripts or other items later in the process. They absolutely can. It just means that those age identifiers won't be used in the very first step of the job application process, and older people will enter the application process on equal footing as their younger counterparts. We do make exceptions for employers who need to verify an age requirement. So, for example, if you're hiring a commercial truck driver or a lifeguard or something like that where an age requirement needs to be met, we've put those exceptions into the bill already. We, as I'm sure all of you are, truly grateful for the contributions of older workers, no matter what line of work they're in. We know that older Coloradans face discrimination when seeking employment. An easy way to address this is to eliminate those age identifiers on the front end of the job application process. That way, older Coloradans are judged on their merit, their experience, their knowledge, instead of their age. They enter the job application process on equal footing as their younger counterparts. I ask you to join me and support these incredible workers, all that they bring to our Colorado community and our economy, and vote yes on Senate Bill 58, the Job Application Fairness Act.
Senator Jaquez Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we know, we have a workforce shortage in Colorado. This is one step that we can take to address our workforce shortage, because a lot of these candidates really do have the skills, the insight, and the experience that our job market needs. So we urge your aye vote on Senate Bill 58.
Senator Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in committee, we heard the bill. I'll repeat my response here to the committee of the whole that I gave in committee, and that is that we should certainly attempt to create an inviting and healthy employment environment for those whom we employ as a state. But it gets exhaustive trying to right all the ills of society in their employment environments by mandating through state statute all the details of behavior for private industry employers. I think that just goes beyond the role of government to mandate behavior in such detail. So I would urge a no vote on this bill, that it is just an overreach of government. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Priola.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I rise in support of 58, and I'm going to tell you a little story about a prior bill that came through here along these lines. It was called Ban the Box, and it was dealt with applications that had questions concerning prior convictions. And what the data and the science and the studies had showed in that is that if you can at minimum get the applicant in front of the employer by not having them know up front about whatever legal troubles the applicant had been in prior, the chances of them getting to a full employment and getting their life back on track are higher. This bill, in my opinion, is similar in the sense that by precluding the age discussion up front, the applicant has the opportunity to get in front of the employer and then close the deal and prove that they have a higher level of expertise, a higher level of work ethic, a higher level of stick-to-itiveness, showing up on time, so on and so forth, that they would not otherwise have. So again, I rise in support of Senate Bill 58. Thank you.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Millennials, Gen Z, if it's not going through your head of, okay, boomer, then you're asleep. You know, I'm opposed to this bill. And I have to tell you, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, otherwise known as ADEA, is a federal statute that has prohibited age discrimination for many years. But let's kind of look at the realities of this. Some years ago when I was in the House, this is kind of a personal story, but everybody seems to be telling personal stories these days. When I was in the House, I got a call from a headhunter. And the headhunter was looking for a federal procurement lawyer of some experience who could go to work in a law firm, and dare I say this, Hawaii. I would have ultimately had to have taken the Hawaiian bar. And I thought really long and hard about that really great opportunity. I chose instead to stay and run for another term in the House. You can question my wisdom and judgment. I see the senator from Fort Collins looking like maybe we should carry the doddering old man out now. He made such a terrible decision, 10, 15 years ago.
Senator, please don't disparage members of this chamber, including yourself, at the well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I knew it was the last chance, though. I haven't had a call from a headhunter since. Not because I don't have adequate experience, not because even though I struggled through law school twice, it's not because I didn't graduate with honors. I just struggled. Not because I don't have a broad base of experience or know how to make rain. But, let's face it. A law firm or corporation is probably looking for someone that can give them 10 to 15 years of work, at least. Do I have a lot to offer? Well, I'll leave that to others to decide, but, you know, I did think about the bill, though, and I thought, well, maybe that benefits me. You know, maybe it benefits me. But, you know, when I think about how I would do my resume to strip out all the dates and at the same time sort of prevent anybody from knowing that I've practiced law for 40 years, which must make me of a particular age because you can't get through law school till you're about 25, give or take, it just doesn't work. Then I thought, tongue-in-cheek, I thought, well, and, you know, I might want to apply for a certain store greeter job, and you do have to be of a certain age, apparently, to get that job. And so maybe they'd want to know. Maybe they'd want to know before you got the job. Before they offered it to you, because if you aren't of a certain age, you can't stand in front of the store and do that. At least that's by all appearances. Members, I think this bill is virtue signaling. I don't think it changes the equation for employers. And I have to say, I think employers, while age discrimination for the sake of age is inappropriate. It's not inappropriate for an employer to be making decisions based on, you know, what's the lifespan of the employee? What's the experience level of the employee? I have that advantage. My downside is that, you know, I probably only got another 20 years now of work life in me, not much more. That's supposed to be a joke, folks. You know, it's just unrealistic. For the most part, this is just unrealistic. I think we have to face the facts that older Americans have job opportunities based on their experience, and you read the articles and in the Wall Street Journal and other places about what older workers have to offer in particular ways. And I know many, many people who are working that are my age and plan to work till they can't work any longer and have opportunities to do so in different settings, in different ways. But, you know, I don't think I'm likely to get hired to be on the partnership track. I accept that. I don't think that, you know, I don't think that unless it's a corporate turnaround, particular kind of a situation that needs someone for a limited period of time, which that might be a great opportunity, and there are probably firms that would want an attorney of my experience to be of counsel. I don't think I'm going to be a good fit for some jobs. Is that because of my age? Well, to the extent that age is related to, I'll call it lifespan of the employee, it does. But it's not simply because of the age. So, I'm going to go through my resume and I'll strip out that I graduated from law school in 1981 and struggled through law school again and got a degree in 1986 in LLM, and I'll strip out that I was with large law firms through that I was in the Air Force and Did procurement law, taught at the Air Force Academy. I'll strip all of that out, take all those dates off. But when you get done, and I don't have the dates on there, and you look at it, you're going to go, well, he's been doing this 35, 40 years. There's just no way you could have done that without doing it. And you have to be of a certain age to get out of high school, college. And then if it's something that requires law school, it's going to require, that you be 25 or something. Unless you graduated from high school when you were 16 or 17, and you might be able to get out of law school by 22 or something. But, unless you're Doogie Howser, talk about dating yourself. It's like, who's Doogie Howser? All the millennials are going, who's Doogie Howser? Look, this bill is a burden on employers, and the return on the burden is going to be about zilch. And in fact, it may, while the senator from Henderson claims that, well, like removing convictions from the background check, stopping the background check may allow someone to get to the second level. I think, frankly, this will just cause employers to have to go further in screening to divine, is this the right kind of employee? To build a customer base? I mean, by the way, I go full circle. What that firm wanted me to do in Hawaii was something that I don't have the years left to do now. I mean, I'd like to think that I do. But it was to build a practice. They were losing a senior partner who didn't have any mid-level people, and they needed someone who was senior. It was a very rare thing at the time. They needed someone in their mid-50s with about 10 more years of work. It's a long, the better senator from El Paso County says mid-50s was a long time ago for me. He would know. Look, it's not that the motivation for this bill is, as I understand it, is bad. It is just that it's unrealistic. It's a burden on employers. I think it may raise the hopes of some who really need to get a grip on what are their strengths as potential employees. Mine isn't youth and vigor. It's age and experience. And I'm trying to remember, it's tough at my age, there used to be an aphorism about that age and cunning will always overcome youth and inexperience. So I'm looking for the employer who's looking for someone with age and cunning, not youth and inexperience. I vote no.
Thank you, Senator. And by the better senator from El Paso County, just confirm, I've heard you say a few times, you mean Senator Exum? Excellent. Senator Janal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I felt compelled to come up here after the comments from the good senator from El Paso County, the simple country lawyer from El Paso County. I didn't make any sounds at all up there. I simply shook my head in regards to whether the job or here. But if anyone has any doubts about voting in support of this bill, that good senator from El Paso County should have made your mind up. Seriously, because ageism is alive, it's well, and many, many people, just because we have the same color hair, are discriminated against. And it's real. It's real even in this Capitol. And personally, I can say that. But I rise in strong support of this bill. Even though it's a tiny step, it may help several people who are experiencing ageism to possibly get in front of that employer and get a job because of their experience, because of their knowledge, institutional knowledge. And so I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 58.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the good senator from Fort Collins for coming forward. This isn't an issue to be trivialized in any way. It impacts families all across the state and all across the country. Workers now are forced to work into or choose to work into their 60s, 70s, and even their 80s, and not as a hobby, but because they have to support their income. And when they lose their jobs, they got to go find a new one. So if we can put them on a level playing field with younger workers, we should do that. And if the employer wants to find out the goals of that particular worker, how long they wish to work, what their career has in store for them into their later years, they are absolutely welcome to do that after the initial process. Nearly 80% of older workers have either seen or experienced age discrimination in the workplace. And these numbers were only exacerbated during the pandemic. Older women, and particularly older women of color, are disproportionately impacted by age discrimination. A recent study finds that women 50 plus are regularly discriminated against because of their age, and this number jumps to 70% for African American women. Over their lifetimes, older workers contribute so much to our economy, and all they want to do is have the chance to continue working, or to find a new position, or to find a new job, or to shift careers. We've seen that removing an age identifier on the initial application process has the outcome of putting these people on the same level playing field as younger workers. Now, what happens after that is up to the employer and up to the employee. If he or she doesn't interview well, if they don't have the same goals in mind, if their experience isn't what the employer is looking for, et cetera, then they can figure that out. But this simple act of removing age identifying information on the initial application process will allow for these older workers to get their foot in the door, to have a chance, to have an equal shot at getting the job that they might be perfect for, instead of, regardless of their purpose, the employer disregarding that worker on the front end. I think a lot of people don't do it on purpose. There's just a bias there that across the board impacts many, many, many Coloradans. So in all seriousness, this is a proven way of equalizing the application process, which for an older worker is not something to scoff at. Not being considered for a position is life-altering. And older workers just across the board have a tougher time of finding a new job. So we've got a concrete solution, a simple solution that is not a burden to employers that will accomplish this fairly immediately. And that is why we must pass this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I wasn't going to come down again and spend what little time I have left. But no, it just grows smaller when you get closer. I just want to make clear I'm not one of those people who will continue to work because it's a hobby. I've spent too much time here in the General Assembly. I'm going to have to continue to work. Now, I don't mind that. I enjoy my work. I have the blessing that I get to do something I love to do. I love to be here. I do agree with the senator from Fort Collins about something. I agree wholeheartedly. There is ageism in this building. And instead of passing a law to say that I can't be asked for my date of birth, even though I get asked my date of birth when I run for office, and people do kind of want to know before they vote for me, they kind of want to know. Some people want to know because they want to know if I have enough life experience to be down here doing it, and some of them want to know whether I'm just too old to be in touch with whatever that is. They want to know, and they're entitled to know. I don't think any of you would say my constituents aren't entitled to know what my age is. I told someone the other day, they said, what are you going to do? What are you going to run for after you're done and term limited in the Senate? You're going to be done next year, Bob. What are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I think I'm going to go back and practice law. The only thing I'm old enough or young enough to still run for is President of the United States, apparently. And I'm not old enough for that. So, really, my purpose of coming down here was the good senator from Wheat Ridge commented about people working, continuing to work as a hobby. I don't know many people in my age bracket that continue to work as a hobby. I know many of them who continue to work to maintain their income and to not be living on a pension that maybe is invested where maybe they had it invested in Silicon Valley Bank or something. And you know, there are reasons to work in addition to making a living. It's one that's lost, I think, in this day and age, unfortunately, and that is to give your life meaning. I have so many people in my age bracket who really don't have to work and are still working, which is good. And one of them said to me, someone I went to school with said to me, well, I saw him in a store by accident, hadn't seen him in 10 years, and I said, are you still working? And he said, well, I retired from, and he mentioned the company. And he said, I have one more reinvention in me, I think. I think I have one more reinvention in me, and I'm going to go do this. So that's all by way of saying, yes, older Americans need to work for income, for meaning. I'm one of them. But I also look at this bill, and I know that the bill itself is not going to make a difference. And my advice to colleagues, to friends about continuing to work is you need to play to your strengths. The strengths are your experience, your work ethic, your ability to work with people, gained over years and years of experience. Play to your strengths. but you're not going to be hired for an entry-level job. For all of my joking about a certain kind of greeter job at a certain chain store, there's a reason you see the folks that are there doing it, because they're friendly, they're congenial, they have a lot of experience with people. There's a reason, and they want to work, and they have a great work ethic. Let's not pass a law. Let's counsel older Americans to play to their strengths. They have a lot of them, and I'm confident that when they do, you can put down that you graduated from high school in 1972, and it'll be okay. I urge a no vote.
Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 58. When I hear things like this does not impose any burden on an employer or imposes a very small burden on an employer, it makes me wonder how many other people in this building go through stacks of resumes or go through stacks of applications. Because as you well know, you put a job out on the web or in the old days in the newspaper, you get hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications. And what I found after going through hundreds and probably thousands of resumes and applications is it doesn't seem to always matter what you put in the job requirements. People very often will simply discount those. So, case in point, I will need to hire experienced, high-level senior account managers, senior account executives in the industries that I work in. The job requirements will say something like, you need to have at least 20 years of experience in this industry. You'll need to have at least 15 years of experience in this industry. And you might ask, why? Why does that matter? How can you just, Senator, how can you just put an arbitrary number out there like you need to have done this for 15 or 20 years to fulfill the requirements of this job? I'm hypothetically super talented and young and energetic, and I have 2 years of experience, but I bet I could do the job of somebody who's done this for 15 or 20 years. I will tell you, now that I've been doing this for 30 years, you can pretty much tell what level of expertise somebody needs, how many, quote, sort of years in the saddle one would need in order to fulfill the expectations that our clients have in these roles. So very often, we're not talking about ageism other than you need to know how long somebody's been doing this. And if you don't have the ability to take a stack of 500 resumes and quickly narrow that down to 200 resumes or 100 resumes, you are placing a burden on the employer. Because what's going to happen, what does happen is you get those resumes and then you start setting up interviews. You'd maybe do a phone interview. That's what we do. Phone interview. And then you narrow it down to 50. And then you start going for in-person meetings. And what you think are qualified candidates come to the in-person meeting, and you meet with some of these folks. It's like the resume clearly said, you know, we're expecting somebody with 15 to 20 years of experience. You have 2. Oh yeah, well, I didn't think that would really matter because of this and this and this. So what we've done now is taken the time to have a phone interview with this person, perhaps an in-person interview, taking up valuable time for somebody who's older and more experienced who actually needed to come in and interview for that job. If you can't ask things like, how long have you been doing this? And that might not be in the letter of this bill, but facing $1,000 or $2,500 in penalties for not being careful with what you're asking. I don't know if you've noticed, we're kind of in a litigious society. I think employers are going to, well, I don't think, I know, because I have these conversations with our HR directors. They're going to steer so far away from this topic to make positively sure that nobody can come to them and can go to a regulator and say, you know what, they didn't really ask me my date of birth, but they asked me my age, or they didn't ask my age or my date of birth, but they did want to know how long I've had my securities license or my insurance license or my law degree. So what we're doing is wasting time, which if you're not in business, I mean, in a room like this, I don't know that anybody cares if we waste time or not, really. Maybe you do. But in business, you've probably heard the cliche, time is money. When you're going to take the director of HR and the hiring manager within HR, start lining up candidates to come in to meet, only to find out this person doesn't meet the qualifications, this person doesn't meet the qualifications, this person doesn't meet the qualifications. I've sat in those conference rooms, colleagues. This cuts both ways. This isn't, I mean, I guess maybe if you're 23, you can call it reverse ageism. Is that a thing? We created that yet? But the concern that I have is really, at least from my perspective, my professional experience, I can't think of a single instance where as an employer, I have looked to rule people out for having too much experience. For me, it would be the exact opposite. You very often have to rule people out because of lack of experience. And anybody who's gone through stacks of resumes, I know I sound like a broken record, but it would be great to have people come up and go, you know what, I've gone through hundreds and thousands of resumes. Nobody ever misreads the job requirements or the expectations to interview. Every time I get those, they're absolutely accurate and germane to the position that we're interviewing for. That's just not how the real world works. And once again, little by little, death by 1,000 cuts, we're just adding more requirements onto business with potential financial damages every time somebody says, oh, you mentioned coaching your kid's soccer team. I coach my kid's soccer team too. What grade? Oh, hold on. You ask somebody how old their kid is? Well, you're obviously just probing for information to try to get an idea how old that applicant is. So we're to the point now where in the interview process, you can't even get to know anybody. You can't even make a personal connection with somebody who you want to be your coworker for the next 20, 30, 40, 60 years. So I just wanted to come up and make sure that everybody knows from an employer's perspective, from somebody who's spent 30 years hiring, promoting people, to say this has virtually no impact on employers simply isn't accurate. In a vacuum, is it going to put ExxonMobil out of business or Frontier Airlines out of business? Of course not. But again, yet piling on piece after piece after piece, another $1,000, another $2,500. I'm not sure that we're spending enough time talking to folks who actually hire people. So I'd encourage no vote on Senate Bill 58.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I begin to wonder if the good senator from Douglas County is up with the times. I really appreciate his remarks, but, you know, one of the ways you get through 500 resumes, I'm told, is you hire yourself a bot. So when the bot isn't out there bidding on your event tickets, the bot goes through resumes. And, you know, I know what's going to happen here is someone's going to program the bot to figure out, does someone have enough experience? Because the good senator from Douglas County is correct. I mean, on the other side of this thing, I remember as a younger attorney, people looking and saying, you have to have 5 years experience doing litigation, or 5 years experience, or 5 to 7. That's kind of a sweet spot for worker bee attorneys, frankly, for workhorses before they're taken to the slaughter. The workhorse attorney, 5 to 7 years of whatever it is. The other was kind of 2 to 3, so they didn't have to train you to, you know, use the telephone or whatever it is they don't teach you at law school. Someone's going to program their bot to figure out, do we have someone who can give us, you know, another 10 years of work or 20 years of work? Do they have sufficient experience to do the job and sufficient expected longevity to justify our investment? And when they do that, then someone's going to come in and go, well, you didn't ask age, but you derived age. Look, if you take someone's resume without any dates on it at all, and you start looking at the experiences which they claim, you're going to pretty well, if they're honest, of course that's another matter in resumes, but if they're reasonably honest, the problem will be you can tell, you know. Now, it's possible someone had they had graduated from high school and joined a rock band and traveled around the country for 10 years, the thing that we all regret not doing, and then went to school and then did all of that and so forth. It's possible you're going to have that sort of thing. I mean, it's possible you're going to have someone. I went to law school with someone who was 55 years old and had retired as a very senior military officer. I suppose he could have done his resume and just said he graduated from the University of Texas School of Law in well, he wouldn't say 1981, he'd just say he graduated from his undergraduate degree, and he graduated from law school, and then he would have applied his chosen, by the way, his chosen specialty was trust and estate planning. And of course, here's the problem. He could avoid all the ageism of 55 just by looking like he was 25. But his particular niche was to do trust and estates for retirees like himself. I think you see the problem here. The good senator, young man that he is from Douglas County, has made it quite clear this is a burden to employers that is going to cause them to be afraid to get the information they need until the prospective employee is on a telephone interview or sitting in front of them, and then they're screened out because that wasn't what the employer was looking for. And no one will ever say, I mean, my advice to my clients, based on all my experience, is don't ever say, just, Some people, maybe we ought to have a bill that would be more useful, which would be, don't have your name on your resume. Don't put your name on your resume. I had someone tell me very recently that they applied for a job under a different name and got the job. Is that next? Let's just put an end to this now. Vote no. Let's accept that people are looking for particular levels of experience, and because they are, and because you can derive that for the most part, and because you don't even have to have people go through 200 or 300 resumes, you can just program the bot, which isn't very old at all. You can just program the bot to do it. Vote no.
Senator Danielson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to gladly accept a small fine because we have some wonderful young people in the gallery, and I just wanted to say hi to the children from Slavin School and welcome especially their teacher, too, who's a friend of mine. And we hope you love your trip to the Capitol. Thank you very much, children.
No.
No clapping, though, Mr. Majority Leader.
Senator Danielson, I very much appreciate that. However, it is outside the rules of decorum for the Senate. You'll be fined $2 for that. And Mr. Majority Leader, you'll be fined $1 for clapping. But welcome.
Children, it's just a fine for me because I'm breaking the rules to say hello to you, and we really are glad to see you up in the building. We hope you learn a lot today and have a great time. And come back and see us soon, okay, kids?
This house belongs to you. Thank you. Is there any further discussion of the children or this bill? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill. Sorry, I told you earlier. I can't see beyond that square right there. The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 58. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of House Bill 1006.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the consideration of House Bill 1006. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll proceed out of order. The better senator from El Paso County. Yes, will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 1006?
Will the House Bill 1006, Representative Young and Doherty, Senator Exum, concerning the notice requirements of employers regarding tax credits and in connection therewith, requiring employers to notify employees of the availability of the federal earned income tax credit, the state earned income tax credit, the federal child tax credit, and the state child tax credit.
Senator Exum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1006.
To the bill.
Thank you. This is a short, simple bill. You've heard that before, but it really is. It merely requires employers to give a written notice to all employees the availability of certain state and federal tax credits which employees may qualify to receive. Which tax credits? Federal, state, earned income tax credits. These tax credits offer low and middle income households thousands of dollars of income support each year, but often go unclaimed because the workers may not know about them and may not, that they qualify. It's a good bill, short and simple, no physical note, and I encourage a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1006. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Bill 22.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 22. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We will proceed out of order for Senate Bill 22. Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 22.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Will the clerk please read the title of Senate Bill 22?
Senate Bill 22, Senator Henriksen, concerning adding aggravated motor vehicle theft to the list of convictions that apply to the offense of possession of weapons by previous offenders.
Senator Henriksen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Please move the bill and the appropriations.
I move Senate Bill 22.
And the Appropriations
Committee Appropriations Committee report and the Judiciary Committee report.
There is no Judiciary Committee report, so we will go to the Appropriations Committee report. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the question is the adoption of the report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Hendrickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill came out of several discussions I had with local law enforcement and a problem that we're seeing statewide. It deals with motor vehicle theft and with follow-on crimes, particularly dealing with crimes of violence. When you commit a felony, you're not allowed to have access to a weapon. What specifically concerns me is firearms, and what this bill tries to get at is that those who have been convicted of felony aggravated motor vehicle theft, that we enforce that provision in law at the state level, so that when you have been convicted and you then possess a firearm, that is grounds for arrest and a charge in and of itself. One of the most heart-wrenching cases that have been presented to me by members of local law enforcement is a case involved that there was a call for a domestic dispute, and the individual whose residency they were called to had recently been released after a felony conviction for motor vehicle theft, and there was a gun on the coffee table. It was clear that there had been some heated arguments, but the parties involved all said that things were fine, and there was really nothing that the police could do in that case. And it was heart-wrenching because there was a sinking feeling that you just knew that it wasn't going to end well. That's what this bill seeks to address, that those who've committed this crime, because this crime, while classified correctly so as a property crime, is an indicator of a severe disregard for the impacts that crime has on other people. These are people that I would argue are often dangerous to the community, and we should enforce the provision that they not be allowed to access firearms. With the force of law, I ask for an aye vote on this bill.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 22. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Bill 162.
The motion is to proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 162. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and we will do so. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 162?
Senate Bill 162, Senators Will and Hawkes Lewis, concerning increasing access to pharmacy services.
Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 162 and the corresponding Health and Human Services report.
To the committee report, is there any discussion?
We did have some discussion. We had some wonderful discussion in our pharmacy community. We were able to tighten the definition around central fill pharmacy. We were able to increase the ability for pharmacy technicians to work in that area. And we also learned, we had some fantastic news about the potential for a new pilot to increase childhood vaccinations.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health and Human Services Committee report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The aye has it, and that report is adopted. There is an amendment at the desk. Will the clerk please read the title to L0, or just read L004?
Amendment L004 by Senator Hawkes Lewis, amend the Public Health and Human Services Committee report dated March 9, 2023, page 1, strike line sweep.
Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And before I forget, I do want to say that my co-prime, the senator from Newcastle, is at a press conference and cannot be here. I'll tell you more about his thoughts in a second, but the amendment,
After you move it.
I move Amendment L004 to Senate Bill 162.
Thank you very much. Senator Hawkes Lewis.
Yes, so this amendment, the reason why we pulled Senate Bill 162 off the consent calendar, which I really loathe to do, is that the department, CDPHE, wanted an amendment to clear up some language around this pilot that I just talked about. And basically, they wanted to ensure that they do not have to enroll a pharmacist in the vaccination program before they are able to establish the framework for that pharmacy to participate in the childhood vaccination program. So we were happy to oblige. We want this pilot to get off the ground. We need to have the ability for families to come in and be vaccinated together. And that's what the pilot will hopefully gather some data so we can do that in the future.
Seeing no further discussion of L004, the question is the adoption of L004. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That amendment is adopted. To the bill.
To the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My fine co-prime sponsor, Senator from Newcastle, wanted you to know that he joined this bill because he really has a commitment to rural pharmacies, as do I. I come from a long line of pharmacists, and we want to make sure that we are getting the workforce that we need for these critical care centers in Colorado. And that's what this bill is all about. It's about increasing the workforce in pharmacies, more pharmacy technicians, therefore allowing pharmacists to do the important work that they do in their community. And so I ask for your aye vote on Senate Bill 162.
Is there any further discussion? Quick senatorial 5. Is there any further discussion for Senate Bill 162? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 162. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. That bill is adopted. Senatorial 5 has been requested and granted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1011 to tomorrow, Wednesday, March 15th.
The motion is to lay over 1011. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. That bill will lay over to tomorrow. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bills 109 and 38 to Thursday, March 16th.
The motion is to lay over those two bills to March 16th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and Senate Bill 38 and 109 will both lay over to Thursday. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. The committee will rise and report. James.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had quite a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee of the whole begs leave to report it has had under consideration the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, and makes the following recommendations on. Senate Bill 17 is amended. Senate Bill 94 is amended. Senate Bill 58 is amended. Senate Bill 22 is amended. Senate Bill 162 as amended, passed on second reading and ordered and engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1031 is amended. House Bill 1006 passed on second reading and ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1011 laid over until March 15, 2023, and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bills 38 and 109 laid over until March 16, 2023, and retaining their place on the calendar.
Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 17 is amended. Senate Bill 94 is amended. Senate Bill 58 is amended. Senate Bill 22 is amended. Senate Bill 162 is amended, passed in second reading, ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1031 is amended. House Bill 1006 passed in second reading, ordered, revised, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1011 laid over until March 15th and retaining its place on the calendar. Senate Bill 38 and Senate Bill 109 laid over until March 16th and retaining their place on the calendar.
Consideration of governor's appointments. Consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Member of the Clean Fleet Enterprise for a term expiring September 28, 2024, Jose Guardiola of Commerce City, Colorado, to serve as an individual from a disproportionately impacted community occasioned by the resignation of Carlos Gonzalez of Colorado Springs, Colorado, appointed members of the Colorado Water Conservation Board for a term expiring February 12, 2024, Barbara Vasquez of Cowdrey, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the North Platte Drainage Basin occasioned by the resignation of Curran Trick of Cowdrey, Colorado, appointed for terms expiring February 12, 2026, Greg Felt of Salida, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Arkansas Drainage Basin, reappointed Lorelei Cloud of Ignacio, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the San Miguel de Lora San Juan Drainage Basin, appointed Nathan Coombs of La Jara, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Rio Grande Basin, appointed member of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors for a term expiring June 1st, 2026, Rachel Brown of Durango, Colorado, to serve as a representative of the Destination Marketing Industry, appointed members of the Groundwater Commission for terms expiring May 1st, 2026, Timothy Hume of Wash, Colorado, to serve as a resident agriculturist from the Southern High Plains, appointed Miguel Angel Diaz of Alamosa, Colorado, to serve as a resident agriculturist from Water Division 3, reappointed member of the State Board of Land Commissioners for a term expiring June 30th, 2025, Deborah Frobe of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a representative with substantial experience in natural resource conservation and as an unaffiliated occasioned by the resignation of Scott Randall Braden of Grand Junction, Colorado, appointed member of the Colorado Civil Rights Commission for a term expiring March 13, 2024, Mayoko Fiore of Thornton, Colorado, to serve as a representative of a statewide Chamber of Commerce and as an unaffiliated occasioned by the resignation of A.J. Menon of Fort Collins, Colorado, appointed.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments listed on the consent calendar, which includes the member of the Clean Fleet Enterprise, the members of the Colorado Water Conservation Board, the members of the member of the Colorado Tourism Office Board of Directors, the members of the Groundwater Commission, the member of the State Board of Land Commissioners, and the member of the Colorado Civil Rights Commission.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the appointments on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes on the consent calendar? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 0 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Message from the House.
March 14, 2023. Mr. President, the House has adopted and transmits herewith House Joint Resolution 1018 as printed in House Journal March 14, 2023.
Signing of bills.
March 14, 2023. The President has signed Senate Memorial 2.
Message from the Governor.
Tuesday, February 28, 2023, Colorado Senate. Honorable members of the Colorado Senate, pursuant to the authority vested in the office of the Governor of the State of Colorado, I have the honor to inform you that I have approved and filed with the Secretary of State the following acts. Senate Bill 112 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Agriculture, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:20 p.m. Senate Bill 113 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Corrections, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:23 p.m. Senate Bill 114 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Early Childhood, approved on Tuesday, February 28 at 2023. February 28, 2023 at 1:24 p.m. Senate Bill 115 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Education, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:26 p.m. Senate Bill 116 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the offices of the Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and State Planning and Budgeting, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:28 p.m. Senate Bill 118 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Higher Education, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. Senate Bill 120 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Judicial Department, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:31 p.m. Senate Bill 121 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Labor and Employment, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:32 p.m. Senate Bill 122 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Law, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:34 p.m. Senate Bill 123 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Legislature, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:34 p.m. Senate Bill 125 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:35 p.m. Senate Bill 126 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Natural Resources, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:36 p.m. Senate Bill 127 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Personnel, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:37 p.m. Senate Bill 128 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Health and Environment, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:39 p.m. Senate Bill 129 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Public Safety, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:40 p.m. Senate Bill 130 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Regulatory Agencies, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:41 p.m. Senate Bill 131 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Revenue, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:42 p.m. Senate Bill 132 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of State, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:43 p.m. Senate Bill 133 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of Transportation, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:44 p.m. Senate Bill 134 concerning a supplemental appropriation to the Department of the Treasury, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:45 p.m. Senate Bill 135 concerning funding for capital construction and making supplemental appropriations in connection therewith, approved on Tuesday, February 28, 2023 at 1:46 p.m. Senate Bill 19, out-of-state online retail vehicle purchases, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:47 a.m. Senate Bill 117, Department of Health Care Policy and Financing Supplemental, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:49 a.m. Senate Bill 124, Department of Local Affairs Supplemental, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:46 a.m. Senate Bill 136, Adjustments to School Funding Fiscal Year 2022-23, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:47 a.m. Senate Bill 138, Appropriation to Department of Health Care Policy and Financing for Denver Health, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:47 a.m. Senate Bill 140, Fentanyl Study, Deadline and Appropriation, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:49 a.m. Senate Bill 141, General Fund Transfers for Capital Construction, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:47 a.m. Senate Bill 142, Information Technology Project Appropriation Process, approved on Friday, March 3, 2023 at 11:48 a.m. Senate Bill 119, Department of Human Services Supplemental, approved on Monday, March 6, 2023 at 1:04 p.m. Senate Bill 137, Transfer of Colorado Economic Development Fund, approved on Monday, March 6, 2023 at 1:04 p.m. Senate Bill 139, State Severance Tax Trust Fund Allocation, approved on Monday, March 6, 2023 at 1:04 p.m. Sincerely, Jared Polis, Governor.
Introduction to resolutions. Will the clerk please read the title of the House Joint Resolution 1018?
House Joint Resolution 1018, Representatives Bacon and Gonzalez Gutierrez, Senators Buckner and Danielson, concerning the designation of March 14, 2023 as Equal Pay Day in Colorado, and in connection therewith, acknowledging the persistent problem of wage disparity.
Majority Leader Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that House Joint Resolution 1018 lay over until tomorrow, Wednesday, March 15th.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Joint Resolution 1018 will lay over until Wednesday, March 15, 2023. Birthdays. Today is a very special day because, members, it is Senator Gonzalez's birthday. Will the Senate choir please assemble to wish her a happy birthday?
Oh, Lundeen? No, well.
Oh, Perry's at the governor's press conference.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't even here for his bill. Oh, yeah, sorry.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Senator Gonzalez. Happy birthday to you.
Wait, I'm going to try it. May the Christ child bless you. Is that it? I don't know. That's the one. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless you.
Announcements. Senator Zenzinger.
I'm sorry.
Yes, the Christ child. Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, tomorrow, Wednesday, March 15th, the Joint Budget Committee staff will conduct a training on the long bill process and will highlight the process of requesting amendments to the long bill. The training is from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the Old State Library, room 271. All legislators, aides, interns, staff are welcome and encouraged to attend.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I'll save you some training. You don't request amendments to the long bill.
Senator Marchman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hope you'll join tonight at the legislative reception for the Colorado Alliance of YMCAs, including your own local YMCA. We've got YMCA Metro Denver, Northern Colorado, Pikes Peak, Pueblo, and YMCA of the Rockies. These are the folks who provide some amazing after-school and summer daycare, camps, swim lessons, workout facilities, and so much more. They're going to be here at the Capitol tomorrow. What? Oh, you're doing the YMCA. Before then, come join tonight, 5 to 6:30 at the downtown Denver YMCA, not far from here. You received an invitation in your mailbox. Thank you.
Senator List.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, now that the village people are done, and after you go to the YMCA reception tonight, I want to remind everybody that the Colorado Association of Medical Equipment Services, CAMES as it's known, the good people who provide medical equipment for us, that there will be they're going to host a breakfast tomorrow in the old Supreme Court chamber starting at 8 o'clock. So I hope you'll come by. I'm sure they hope you will come by and introduce yourselves to the CAMES people, and you can show them your YMCA moves and all that. But that's tomorrow morning, Wednesday, March 15th, about 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, thank you very much for the birthday wishes. I do just want to announce again, I did make this announcement yesterday, that the Senate Judiciary Committee will be meeting upon adjournment as opposed to its traditionally scheduled hour of meeting at 1:30. We will be, don't we all? We'll be meeting in the old Supreme Court, and we will be hearing 3 bills in this order: House Bill 1187, Senate Bill 188, and Senate Bill. First House Bill 87, then Senate Bill 190, and then Senate Bill 188. So see y'all then. Thank you.
Senators from Peltonia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this week, I wanted to make sure that we're approaching this week, and this Saturday in Logan County, we are having the greatest event that happens in our county, and that is Meet In Day. Meet In Day at 11 o'clock a.m. It starts at Sterling Livestock, and the best part about this is that we raise a lot of money for nonprofits and for our local community. Last year, we raised $155,000 for our local community and for nonprofits. So please, if you have an opportunity to come out, we celebrate the livestock industry. We have a hamburger. You guys can listen to great music, listen to all of us speak, and come on out to Logan County and enjoy the Meet In Day.
The other senator from Peltonia.
Thank you, and there will be a meet-in day in Ordway at Big Blue, so 6 o'clock Saturday. Thank you.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to take a moment to introduce a guest. We have Travis Deal, who is the new Chief Executive Officer of Colorado Springs Utility. Our municipal utility is with us today. So everyone from El Paso County, make sure and say hello to Travis and welcome to Colorado State Senate.
Members, I have one announcement. State Veteran Military Affairs Committee will be meeting this Thursday, March 16th, to hear one bill, House Bill 1219, waiting period to deliver a firearm. And Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Seeing no further announcements, I move that the Senate adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, March 15th at 9 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, March 15th, 2023.